Hey everybody, this is Leanne from Of Love and Shiplap and the founder of That Sublimation Graphics and Tutorials here on Facebook. If you're joining us on YouTube, please be sure to come join our Facebook group where all of our videos air live before they are added to our YouTube channel unedited. And of course, if you are catching us live on Facebook, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Those links are in the video description depending on where you're watching. Today, I'm going to be doing a demo of iColor two-step standard 550 media for white toner printing. If you're just joining our channel or you're not familiar with white toner printing, this is a special type of printer that uses various types of transfer paper that can be applied to just about any substrate you can possibly imagine, including dark garments and cotton garments. The number of things that you can do with your white toner printer continues to blow my mind. And as we head into the holiday season, I'm really looking forward to showing you even more unique things that you can do for your business with one of these iColor printers. Now, today I wanted to do the iColor two-step standard because I just didn't have a video that only covered that specifically. So we're gonna go ahead and do one. I just grabbed a Gildan V-neck, 90% cotton, 10% polyester t-shirt at Michael's. It was a couple of dollars. The great part about white toner printing is that you can use pretty much any garment you can find anywhere. And there is a way to be able to press your transfer onto it. So let's go ahead and switch over to the computer so we can get our design set up and ready for print. And I'll walk you guys through that process. So if you're new, this is of course an important part for you to follow. And then I will take you through the foolproof marrying process as well as the application of our design on this women's V-neck. Before we can open up our design in the ProRip software to print it, we need to bring it into our favorite design software and make some edits. Now I'm using Affinity Designer, which is my preferred choice of software, but if you were using something different like Photoshop or GIMP, that's fine as well. Photoshop and GIMP actually are integrated into the ProRip software so that you can open up your file, export it to one of those programs, make edits, and import it back in relatively seamlessly. I still don't use either of those, and since I do the most tutorials on Affinity Designer, that's what I'll be working in today. I want to show you guys this little step because what I'm going to do is called applying a selective rasterization technique to your design. Now, one of the most important things about printing, no matter what type of printing you're doing, is making conscious choices about what kind of designs you're pairing with what type of garment. Now, if we think about sublimation, for example, we know that your design has to go on a light colored or white polyester garment. But there are still light colors of other shirts that are polyester, that are other colors that you can also use. But we have to keep in mind that our design is going to be impacted by the color of that garment because the ink is translucent. So, you wouldn't want to put something that has a lot of pastels on a blue shirt because it's going to wash out those colors. But you could put a design that has a lot of black, for example, or other bold, solid colors on maybe a yellow, and it wouldn't be an issue, or even a light blue or a light gray. When you think about something like vinyl, which we know vinyl to be the heaviest form of printing for any type of garment, when we think about vinyl, one of the easiest ways to offset that thick feel of vinyl is by choosing to make the shirt color one of the colors that would be part of the vinyl design so that you don't have to apply vinyl for that color. You can just use the color of the shirt integrated into the design. And now, of course, when it comes to white toner printing, we have to make that same kind of decision. I've said this before, and I'll just reiterate it again, is that there are almost a dozen different types of media which you can choose from. If you want a media that you never have to rasterize, never have to worry about creating that dead space, you can choose something like iColor two-step premium or premium stretch, but also keep in mind that these are going to tack on around $7 to the cost of your shirt. If your price point for reselling is the $30 to $35 that it should be for a garment, then this isn't really a big deal because you're still only spending $11 or $12 for that garment and you're reselling it for the appropriate price point. But a lot of people I see say that their price point for reselling is $20, maybe $25. So with that in mind, spending $12 on materials might not be ideal, which is where making these conscious choices comes into play. We're going to be starting our in-depth overview of rasterization soon. So this is going to be a little bit of a preview for that. Now, for those of you who are new, rasterization refers to the process of adding dead space to your design. This improves the washability, makes it feel softer on the garment, and improves its overall stretch. All of these are advantageous for your finished product. Whenever you're using a media like iColor 2-Step Standard or Select, it's really important that you do this because it is going to improve the washability the most. We're going to be using iColor 2-Step Standard 550 today, just because, as I mentioned, I haven't actually done a demo specifically on this media, so I wanted to make sure that we cover it. I'm using a light gray shirt, which gives me the perfect opportunity to do selective rasterization on the design I want to use today. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to click on File and New to open up a new document. As I already mentioned, I'm using Affinity Designer on a Windows laptop. Next, I'll go ahead and hit the Place Image tool, and I'm going to pull in this proud member of the Naughty List design that I created for a special bundle that's going on right now, but it will be available on my website, www.ofloveandshiplap.us, after next weekend, and you can purchase it there if you would like. Now, this design already has thin fonts that really aren't going to be an issue on my garment. And even if we zoom in onto our text down here, the words naughty list, you can see that I added in a dead space around the text when I created it. So I wanted it to have that shadow look, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't blocky and also, didn't add to the thickness over top of the scroll. These are small techniques which you can do in your own designing that will make a big difference in your finished design in terms of being able to use it for this type of printing. So with this in mind, our issue with this particular design is going to be this scroll. It's very thick and blocky, and it might feel fine on the garment, honestly, but we always want to give our garment the best chance of washability. So the easiest way to do this is just to apply a selective rasterization just to our scroll. Now I'm going to show you a really easy way to do this. There are other methods which will be covered in our rasterization series. I'll show you how to just kind of isolate specific colors and use the selection tool, but I'm not going to worry about all that today because I want to show you the quick and easy method that you can use. Inside of ProRip software, the rasterization options that are available include adding lines or stripes, different types of squares, things like that, micro dots and lines basically, which would be applied to the entire design. This is absolutely fine, but for this particular design, because we already have such thin fonts, it's not really necessary, and it might actually take away from our text to do so. So we just want to focus on applying rasterization to our scroll. Now, this is a PNG file, which is, if you're not doing your own artwork, you're going to run into a lot of situations where you need to make edits based on a PNG file. So one of the things I like about Affinity Designer is that it features a vector persona, which is what we're in right now, which is identified by this blue icon. When you hover over, it says designer persona, and also a pixel persona, which is your roster work, which would be, freehand drawing and line editing and things like that. So if you're familiar with Photoshop products, Affinity Designer includes the features of both Photoshop and Illustrator all in one program for a fraction of the cost and uses way less processing power, which is one of the reasons why I like this program so much. We're going to click on the pixel persona because this is where we'll need to be to do our editing. Now, I mentioned that you can use the selection tool, which is right here. That's not going to be the method I use today, but I just want to make sure I point it out for those of you who might want to give it a try. The first thing that we have to do is rasterize our graphic. So we will right click and select rasterize. This this converts our PNG into a pixel format so that we can actually work with it in this particular persona on the software. Next, we're going to hit select. We have to have our graphic selected, sorry. Then we'll hit select and we'll hit select sampled color. Now it automatically aligns around the whole design, which is not what we want. We want to just be selecting this internal light beige color. Now, because this design is going to be going on a light gray shirt, we can add our own texture to this, to the light color of this, and it won't be impacted negatively by the color of the shirt. If we were using maybe like a green shirt, then this might not be the best option for rasterization. And in a black shirt, it probably would be a little hit or miss as well. So again, this is where it goes with kind of making those conscious choices about what color garment you're using with the designs that you're choosing. So I've selected the color, and of course you can increase or decrease the tolerance here. None of that's necessary for what I'm doing. I'm just going to hit apply. And this has selected this lighter beige color, which is obviously identified by the marching ants we see. Now you don't want to unclick on anything. That's important, because if you do that, you kind of mess this all up. So you're going to go to right click, copy, right click and paste. And now this just created a second layer that is just our beige center. So I'm going to uncheck it in my navigation bar just so that you can see it, or just so you can't see it. You can't tell the difference that I unchecked it. But the part that's selected here is in our base one, and we're just going to go ahead and hit the delete key. And you'll see that it removed that color. So now we're going to go to select and deselect, and you can of course just use Control D as well. If we were using a beige colored shirt, which I think I actually do have some that are that color, and I've definitely seen some cotton blends of like the Time and True brand at Walmart, and I'm sure you can pick up a cream colored shirt pretty much anywhere. We could actually leave this just like this if we were using a cream colored shirt that was the same kind of cream that we just deleted out. But because I'm using a gray shirt, we're just going to add some rasterization to this. So how we're going to do this is by clicking on that top layer, rechecking it so we can see it. We're going to go back over to our designer persona, and now we're going to add a textured layer. Now you can create your own textured layer, and there's a lot of places online that you can buy a textured layer. I'm going to be using a textured layer from Frankentune. I believe it's frankentune.com. I will add that into the video description for you guys so that you guys can see where I got that. This was called a grunge texture pack that they offered, and I believe it was only a couple of dollars. But you can see it's got all these different grunge textures. I use these all the time in designs. This was probably one of the best design purchases I've made. And it turns out that it's perfect for using for rasterization in like the cases like we're doing now. So I want to choose one that's got smaller amounts of dots or lines. So like I really like this one. I think this one is more of like a micro mist. So this is a good one we could choose too. Let me see what else we got in here. Okay, so I kind of picked 3 different textures. We're not going to use all 3. I just wanted you to see what your different options are. I'll zoom in so you can see them a little closer. So you could apply any one of these to make them your rasterization for this. I think I'm going to use this one over here. So I'll just click on the other 2 and I will go ahead and delete them. All right, so I'm going to use this one. I think that this one actually offers kind of the best little texture to get going here. So how we are going to do this is we're going to, in our drop-down menu here under the layers panel, we're going to choose the blending mode, which is what all of these are. And we're looking for the one that says erase because this is going to negate it out of our design. So you can see that it has erased it. Obviously, we need to duplicate this and add a few more of these to cover our entire scroll. And you can kind of rotate them so that it doesn't all look the same. You can use your flip tools at the top here. Like that. Okay. So we've got it, this is over top, and you can see it's over top of the text too. And the reason why we created that other layer was so we could embed it into that specific layer. So we will just do this by clicking on all of our grunge textures, and we are just going to drag them so it's over top of the name of that layer, and that will embed them inside of it. It automatically creates a group where they are inside. So now when we zoom in on this, we can see all of this dead space that we've created and added to our scroll. It seems like it's not that much, but it doesn't really take a whole lot to make a difference in your print. And because this is going to be on a medium women's shirt, this isn't going to be massive anyway. So this small amount of rasterization will make a huge difference in how this feels and improving the washability, because it's going to give space for that water to flow as it's being washed, and that will decrease the likelihood of cracking and just improve the overall feel of this on a garment. Now you can play around with all different techniques. Maybe you want to add more texture than just this. It's really kind of up to you and your discretion. For me, I think that this is pretty good for the most part. I think I might just need to make a little modification in here because it looks a little too straight lined around that word nice. There we go. We might need to like rotate this one. That's a little better. So it just doesn't look so so blocky, so even lined, I guess I should say. There. So you can play around with whatever type of rasterization you want to apply. Because this is going to go on a light gray shirt, that is just going to add to the aged look of our Santa scroll. All right, so now that we're all set with that, we're going to go ahead and export this. So we'll go File, Export. It's already set as a PNG. Oops. Before I do that, one of the things that we want to do is actually click all of this. You can group it or not group it, but you want to make sure you don't export all of this dead space around the design because we want to get the most accurate print size in our ProRip software. So I'll just go to File and Export now that it's grouped. And for my drop-down menu, I'm going to select Selection Without Background. And then I did give this a test run, so I'll just resave it as that same file. And now we'll go ahead and open up that ProRip software. This will take just a minute to load. And I apologize for the sounds of freedom that you guys may be hearing in the background. That would be military weapons testing. It happens a lot around here, and unfortunately, I can't really plan around it. So we are going to make sure we have our overprint cue selected. If you're ever unsure about which cue you should be using for what you're printing, all you have to do is look at the instructions that are provided with your media. All of that information is there. We're going to select our media from the drop-down menu. It is of course, already selected for us. It's the two-step standard 550. If we didn't already add our rasterization, you could also choose to automatically add holes or stripes by choosing either of those. You always want to make sure That was our old document. I'll just delete that. You always want to make sure that your page size matches the page size that you have, because the media does also come in A4, I believe. Or maybe it's just the standard that comes in A4. You will select on the green plus icon to import your graphic. All right, this red around here is letting us know that the design exceeds the size of the page at its current state. It's very important that you pay attention to this. I see a lot of people who have paper misfeed errors, and the common reasons why that happens are because either your design extends past the space on your layout, which causes the printer to have a misfeed error. Your paper tray was not resized to the paper that you're using, or the other common reason that it happens is because you're either using the incorrect paper tray or you have the wrong paper type selected. So this is why it's really important to use these drop-down menus, because everything is preset in there. And as it's preset in there, it sets the page. It tells you which tray to use. It even aligns the paper type so that the printer knows everything it needs to know before you even print. So I'm going to start by just rotating this 90 degrees so that it will actually fit on the page when we're done. Then I'm going to go ahead and select the fit to page option, and then I'll go ahead and center it. Pretty quick and easy to get it set up on our page. But here it is. I think that we do need to just decrease the size just a hair, because if you see how close this is to the edge, I zoom in for you, that might actually get cut off because there is a little bit of a margin. So I will go ahead and decrease my height by 1/4 of an inch, should be plenty. Just always be mindful of those margins. All right, and I'm going to hit that center to page one more time so that it's away from those edges. And we'll just kind of scroll down to make sure we're good. I think we're pretty good. I think that we are ready to print. Now, we don't need to make any changes to the colors for this because we are doing it on a lighter garment. But if you did need to make changes to the colors, you would simply click on Color Adjust. And here you could make edits to how much of your ink is being put down. You could improve the brightness or saturation. And you can also check or uncheck the options to remove ink. So where it says enable ink removal, this is going to happen any place that you are trying to rasterize. And where it says vary whole size in areas of partial transparency, this is what you would check or uncheck if you had anything that uses gradients. So I did have a version of this design with a glow behind the text instead of just having the solid erased outline of the text. And that would have caused to have little rasterized white glow, which is not very attractive for this type of design. So I just went ahead and made the quick edit that it just erased it out to make everything a lot easier. And that's the version that will be on my website. So we don't need to make any changes, but just so you know, this is where you would if you needed to. So I'm just going to hit OK. And now we're ready to print. So we'll just go ahead and select our rainbow print job and send it off over to the printer and get on with our marrying process and pressing our iColor 2-step standard 550 design. Now, our ProRip software lets us know that the recommended queue for the iColor 2-step standard 550 media is called Tray 1, which is this tray at the bottom. This is the bypass tray. So we'll go ahead and pull that out. And it says print side face up. So when you get your media, you'll have 2 sheets for all 2-step media. One is your transfer sheet. The other is your adhesive sheet, as the 2 steps would suggest. So this is what they look like if you were to get the textile sample pack, so you can try out 5 sheets of all different ones. The transfer sheet is this particular media, has a very high gloss side, that's the non-print side, and then a dull frosted side, that is your print side. And if you're ever not sure, you can always just scratch the corner a little bit with your nail and that coating will come right off. But be careful not to do that too much because you obviously don't want it to be an issue. So our tray tells us our media needs to be print side, face up. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that on in. And you can, of course, keep all the media in here that you want. I just don't have a reason to do that for demos. And also, I like the select media, and the select media goes in the top. So I'm just going to pull this out because I do want to make sure that my paper guides are, so you guys can see better. I want to make sure that my page guides are set up accordingly. They are, since the last thing I used was the 2-step 550 in this tray. So I'll go ahead and slide that in. And hit our print button. All right. So here's our transfer. We still have to add the adhesive, but you can see all that rasterization that we applied to give this a little bit more breathability on our fabric. Now, this is just so minimal. It's gonna look great when it's all said and done, but I see a lot of people who are worried about how rasterization looks, and if you do it right, it looks perfectly normal. I mean, this just adds to the aged look of a Santa scroll. All right, so let's go ahead over to our heat press and get this set up. Now, marrying two-step paper is one of the things that people have the most issues with, so I'm going to make sure I cover all of the steps for you. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your pressure on your press is adjusted accordingly. It's recommended with white toner printing that you do use a higher end heat press like a Geonite or a Fusion IQ from Stahl's, both of which have digital pressure reads. Now, this is not to say that you absolutely cannot use a more budget-friendly heat press. If you've been watching my videos, you know that you can absolutely use a budget-friendly heat press. But the most important part of that is understanding your heat press and how to make it work the best. Now, I recently upgraded my heat press to this EnduraPress SD20, which I did purchase from iColor, and you can too by contacting sales at icolorprint.com. This model to me was a good budget-friendly option. Now, when I do these demos, and if you've been in my group, that Sublimation Graphics and Tutorials on Facebook, you know that one of the most important things to me is that you guys buy the products that you need and the equipment that you need, but also be mindful of the budget that you have. You should at no point be overextending yourself and your business that you can't thrive, because that just adds stress. So I'm a big proponent of working with what you have. So that being said, if you are looking for something that does work well for white toner applications and is a bit more affordable than a higher end model, the EnduraPress is a great option. Some of the features that I like about this are that it's very smooth operating. I happen to really like this sleek digital display. It still does not have digital pressure read. You have to adjust the dial back there, do all the work yourself manually. The bottom platen is able to be leveled and adjusted, and the instructions actually walk you through that when you unbox your press and show you how to do that. That alone, I think, is a great little feature because it'll help ensure that you are getting even pressure from front to back and hopefully even temp as well, but that's just a whole other issue altogether. The main thing is getting adequate pressure front to back whenever you're marrying A and B paper. And this is where a lot of people with more budget-friendly presses fail. Especially if you're using a clamshell, it can be difficult to get even pressure front to back. Sometimes you end up with heavier pressure in some spots. And when your pressure is too heavy, it pushes out that adhesive layer through the little holes and around the edges of your design. And it's honestly kind of ugly when you end up transferring it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with 3 pieces of just regular old copy paper. We're going to stick them in our press and we're going to close it. Now, the first thing that we're going to be looking for is, as we're closing this, we want to pay attention to how much resistance we get. Now, this handle is spring loaded, so that cuts to a point when I push it a little bit further where the spring is going to snap down and it's going to close. So you want to be paying attention to that point before the spring lever kicks in and how much resistance you have. Now, this is not taking any effort at all for me, but it is giving me a little bit of resistance, which lets me know I'm at about a medium firm, which is what we want. So there was that spring action. So the first thing you're looking for is that resistance in your handle. And this is true of any kind of press that you're using, as that doesn't have a digital pressure read. So you want to make sure that you're looking for that resistance as you're closing. If you have to force this closed, that's too much pressure. If it just closes real easily, that's too light. The next thing is your paper. This paper in here is roughly the thickness of your A and B sheets. When you pull on this, it should not easily come out of your press. If it just pulls right out, or it feels like it's about to pull out with very little effort on your part, that means your pressure is too light. If you are pulling on it with a reasonable amount of strength and it rips and it, kind of jolts your press forward or anything like that, that means that your pressure is too firm. What you're looking for is that when you pull on this with a reasonable amount of force, it should feel secure. But you should feel confident enough that if you really gave this a good yank, it would come out. Now, of course, I'm not going to do that because the press is on and God forbid something happens. That would not be very pleasant. I recommend that if you are trying to get comfortable with a press that does not have a digital pressure read, you print a lot of smaller designs and work on marrying, 4 designs to a page where you can do them individual quarters, and also practice understanding your pressure in that paper test when your press is off so that you don't get hurt. The next step is to preheat our press. So to do that, all we have to do is just close the press. The reason why we need to do this is because this bottom platen does not heat up. At this time, there are no heat presses on the market that offer that feature, but there's rumor that there may be some in the future. That will definitely be exciting for all people existing in the white toner world. For now, you have to heat it up yourself, and you do that by simply closing the press. That heat is going to transfer without an issue. Now, I will tell you that going from my clamshell that I recently have had to this EnduraPress, I have noticed that this bottom plate heats up a lot faster and stays hotter longer, which is definitely advantageous when you're trying to do white toner printing. We have our heat press set at 310 degrees, and the marrying process for the iColor 2-step standard 550 media takes 120 seconds. You can choose to let your press warm up that whole time for the preheating stage, but since I've already been using the press today, that's not really necessary. So I just did 60 seconds, that's half the time, and we'll go ahead and get our transfer up here to marry. You want to be placing your transfer with the printed side face up. Then you're going to take your adhesive sheet. For this media, the back side has a grid on it to make it nice and easy. And you want to fold the corner and place this on top. Now, it's very important that you work quickly with this also. You don't want to give time for your bottom platen to cool off. I'm just going to slide a little protective sheet on top of that so that we don't get any of that adhesive from that folded corner on the top of our press, and then I will go ahead and close it. Once again, this is called the marrying process for any type of 2-step paper. We are demoing the iColor 2-step standard 550 media today, which is specifically formulated for the iColor 550 white toner printer. If you're using an Oki, you can use the iColor 2-step standard regular. But if you happen to have the 550 or 800 models of the iColor printers, you will want to make sure that you are using the special formulated ones. These are actually thinner and they feed smoother through the through your printer, therefore causing you less issues. The process that we're in right now, marrying, is easily one of the things that people struggle the most with. Honestly, I have never really struggled with it. I find that if you just follow the directions, it tends to go pretty smoothly. Everything that I just covered is exactly what the directions tell you. There's no ad-libbing here. The entire process of marrying really is as simple as making sure your pressure is accurate, preheating your press, setting your transfer, and folding up that corner, and then doing 310 degrees for 120 seconds. So we have about 40 seconds to go. I'm going to go ahead and put my heat gloves on because this will be hot. I see people all the time who don't use heat gloves for peeling this apart. Kudos to them. I'm a wimp. I need the gloves. And these are just a couple of dollars on Amazon. They're called hot tool gloves. I think they were $4. So we have about 10 seconds left. Okay, we want to make sure that we keep our transfer. On our hot bottom plate. We'll give it a little rub, and then we're going to peel it back at an angle called a slow, tight roll. Especially when you're using fine text, you want to make sure that you're giving us a nice come back, and then just kind of let the adhesive fall away from your transfer. If we give a nice look at this, we can see that adhesive was left behind or picked up in all the right places. And you can even see all of our rasterization. See, the adhesive did not pick up, so that's perfect. All of our text looks great. It's always a good idea to check this adhesive sheet just in case you happen to have missed something. Now, if you were selling transfers, this would be ready to go to stick in an envelope and sell. But since we are not, we're planning on using that. The next step that we want to do is trim off our edges. So see how there's that little line? That's just a line from the adhesive sheet. And we don't want that to transfer onto our garment. I will tell you, just because I'm sure someone will ask, if you make a mistake and it does end up transferring on your garment, you can heat it up from the background and then use tweezers to peel it off. It is a very painstaking process and I do not recommend it. But if you just need to salvage something where you missed a little line of adhesive, then obviously that is a must-do option. Okay. And there's our transfer. I'm very excited about this. So next we'll go ahead and put our shirt up on our press. I like to try and make sure mine's even. You can also slide the shirt over top of this by coming in through the bottom and do things upside down. I know a lot of people who do that. I personally am not going to do that. I don't want to confuse anyone. All right. You always want to make sure you lint roll anytime you're working with something that's going to adhere to your garment, just in case. And then we'll go ahead and just give this a quick pre-press, just so there's no wrinkles in it or anything that are going to impede the look of our transfer. Anytime you're pressing something that is 80% to 100% cotton with white toner, you don't even have to adjust the temperature. One of the cool things about white toner media, though, is that you can actually apply your transfers at a variety of temperatures depending on the fiber content that you are working on. For example, you can use 285 on polyester, and this is a great temperature to help prevent any dye migration on polyester garments. So since this is gray, and because it is 90% cotton and 10% polyester, leaving this for the 310 degrees will be just fine. I am, however, going to adjust my time because we only need 30 seconds. Okay. So we'll go ahead and place our transfer. Have you guys seen these new cutouts you can use on t-shirts? I've been seeing them all over the sublimation groups. They're like acrylic cutouts so you can set up to line up your design. I'm definitely going to have to get one. They're much more cost effective than the T-square. If you're producing a lot of shirts, something like the T-square is great. I only do this in demos, so for me, spending $65 on a T-square seems ridiculous. But thankfully, I have a very handy tape measure that was only $3 at Walmart. And I'm just going to have a look at the edges of my design. Okay, looks like I can go over just a little bit. It needs to come down. And then I'll go ahead and grab my laser level and line that up. Check the baseline of my text. Okay. You can apply just 2 little pieces of heat tape to keep your transfer in place. And then go ahead and close that. So once again, we're doing this at 310 degrees for 30 seconds. Now this final part, we have the transfer application part, which is what we're doing right now. And then we will also have the finishing step, which we can't do until we peel the carrier sheet off for this. So we've got just a few seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my heat glove again. Okay. Now, because this bottom platen stays hot for so long, I'm just gonna pull this right off and set it over on the side. I'll move you guys down for just a second. Now, I'm gonna help speed up this process by getting some ice. I'm getting an ice block from my freezer. So I will go and do that, and you guys can just adore the work, I guess. So there are a lot of tricks to cooling down your carrier sheet quickly, and you do want it to be quickly, you do want it to be completely cold. So my favorite is just to take an ice block. And this also, I've learned, saves a lot of time when I'm doing demos. If you're doing bulk run shirts, you could absolutely just let this be, pile more shirts on top of it, and then come back to it. But if you're just doing one and you're in a rush, this is the secret. And they make, like ceramic blocks and stuff like that you can use. Frankly, if you're mass producing shirts, there are a lot of great things that you can make. Since I don't do that, I'm a big fan of using what I have, which includes one of these handy ice blocks. So again, we want this needs to be ice cold. You'll know when it's right because the carrier sheet will just peel right away from your design. So I'm just gonna keep on rubbing this, kind of help speed up that process for us. You especially want to make sure any edges of your text, any small text, you want to make sure all of those covered as well. We can actually just see if this is quite ready yet. So let's see if we, it's almost there. So we'll kind of keep rubbing it. Like I said, when it is done, you will know because the carrier will peel away pretty easily and not give you any real resistance. If you happen to have a white toner printer or plan to purchase one in the future, you will find that you get better at this as you go along. You're better at judging it. And as you see, it just peeled right off. No problems at all. That is, again, how you know that you've gotten this right. So before I do the finishing step, I want to kind of show you guys up close all that rasterization we put in. Now, it's not a ton, and it doesn't need to be a ton. The goal is just to break up the blockiness so that this will wash better. Now, there is consistent rasterization along most of this roll, and it's very fine, but even a fine amount is going to make a difference in the longevity of your garment. iColor two-step standard media has a washability rating of 50 plus washes. So pretty much the standard, not bad at all. If you want something that has high washability, you would absolutely want to check out the iColor Premium and Premium Select. We'll be demoing those very soon. They also marry faster, so lots of benefits there. Okay, so I'm sure you can see that this has like a high gloss. That's what the finishing step is for. The finishing step will completely remove that high gloss and make sure that this is adequately affixed to this garment. So for this, you want to make sure that you're using the designated iColor special coated craft paper. This is not just any old craft paper from the store. This is specially coated, and you can use this repeatedly. Basically, you can use this until you can't use it anymore. As I mentioned before, we're going to do this at 310 degrees for that 30 seconds because this is a mostly cotton shirt. But if we were working with polyester, we would just lower the temperature. You don't have to worry about trying to remember all of these little details because they are all in the instructions. And as I already said, if this happens to be a path for you, you're going to find that you get better at this and more smooth at the process as you go. We've got 5 seconds left. Now, you don't want to just rip this off. You want to just kind of give it a little shake because you'll notice it is stuck a little bit. That's why it's so important that you use the special coated craft paper. We'll also give this a nice little stretch. I'm going to try and hang this off of here so you can see it well. Okay. And there you have it. This is ready for my niece. She's going to love it. Once again, this was a demo on the iColor two-step standard 550 media, and I'm using a Gildan 90% cotton, 10% polyester garment that I just picked up at Walmart for a few dollars. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you're joining us on YouTube after we are live, then you will have to join our Facebook group if you have questions. For more white toner projects and to just learn more about white toner in general, be sure to head over and join White Toner Transfer Support Group. You will find that there are amazing, helpful people in there and so many cool projects that can inspire you well and beyond just garments. As I mentioned, the line of white toner printers can be used for so many different things. So you have endless possibilities for business, and this is a great printer to add no matter what style of printing you're already doing. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your night.